And welcome to Sharing with Shellshock, where we have weekly discussions with this podcast. Every single week, we usually talk about different topics, and I bring in different guests. I'm your host, ShellshockPrime, and tonight, this is all about professional wrestling, our love for it, why we love it, how we got into it, and so much more. Joining me tonight is Sylverstone Khandr.
Hello. Hi.
Hi. Good to see you, Silver. And also, Xeno Awesome Gaming. Hello, Xeno.
Dude. How's it going?
It's going good. It's good to see everybody coming through, like everyone within my chat. Nice to see all of you tonight. So, we're going to be talking about professional wrestling. We're going to be talking about how we got into it and everything. But before we do that, first, Silver, since you've been on the show before, reminder of exactly just what type of content do you do?
Of course, for me, I do all sorts of content, variety content, video games, art, commentary streams, all over at Silver.stream. That is what I do on a weekly basis. So that's generally what I do. So Silver.stream for all your needs for me.
All right. Sounds awesome. All right. And Xeno, since this is your first time on this show, what type of content do you do?
Well, mostly play retro games. We're talking about the PlayStation 1, Super Nintendo, even some that we're going to have on current generation consoles like the Switch or the PS4, and also several modern games that we're having. Earlier today, I did play Splatoon 3, but also games such as Mortal Kombat 11 or Street Fighter 5 for their story purpose, so to say.
Yeah. All right. Sounds very good. Yeah. So, I like professional wrestling. Both of you like professional wrestling. So,
well, definitely. I even got to pro wrestling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
you do.
We're going to be talking about it today. So, we got a couple of topics tonight. So to start things off, let's talk about just how each of us got into professional wrestling. Silver, you will go first. How did you get into it?
All right, cool. So professional wrestling has been around for, I'd say, practically all my life. Of course, I was born in 93. Of course, this is during, I guess, like what, the generation era, I believe.
Yeah.
Around the time when that Raw was kind of like starting out. But I don't. The only thing is I don't remember too much until I want to say 96, 97. This is when this is like, of course, after Austin 316. I think my earliest recollections of wrestling were actually doing the DX crack shop as a toddler, because like my brother taught me how to do it and my mom was pissed at him because I didn't know what it meant. I'm just a kid. So like I know the earliest angle I can remember think of, it was like when Austin was crucified on the Undertaker symbol. Like that was like, I remember that. I was like pretty much like smack dab in the Attitude Era where it was must see television every Monday night. I remember very distinctly when I first went to public school, where Monday night obviously we're all like watching Monday Night Raw, and then I remember every time in the mornings I would actually hang out over a friend before you take the school bus to school, and what we would do, we would take the matches that we saw on TV and reenact them on. He had an N64, so he had WrestleMania 2000, No Mercy, WCW and Revenge. He had like all the wrestling games.
Nice.
And we just like reenact what we saw like on TV last night. Who would win if the match was like this different or whatever. It was phenomenal. So my entry into the pro wrestling field was mostly through, of course, the World Federation, WWF.
Yeah.
And for a long time it was all about the Federation into WWE, and then of course there was a point where I did fall off from watching wrestling. I think because I guess after the Attitude Era kind of like just went under, I missed kind of like the beginning of like the Ruthless Aggression era of wrestling. But then I came back into it like around the time when actually ECW was going back, when they had ECW like One Night Stand for the first time, and then from there it was like just understanding like how pro wrestling was at the time. Didn't really know too much about, I guess, TNA at the time. I knew it existed, but like I didn't watch. There were not really any like alternatives I knew about. So like I only knew about WCW and WWE and maybe a little bit of ECW because they had their own game too, which is kind of funny. And then maybe like later on the line, obviously TNA. And then it wasn't until like way later down in life where I got to know about like New Japan, All Japan, and all Impact, not Impact Wrestling, but like the NWA and all these other promotions, of course, leading into all Elite Wrestling and more. So my pro wrestling roots are 100% Attitude Era. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah. Yeah, the Attitude Era was definitely an interesting time on like how people got like that's when I know a lot of people got into it. What about you, Zeno? How did you get into professional wrestling?
Well, it's very simple. It was the Hogan years, the golden years, and I don't think I was around for WrestleMania 3, where Hulk Hogan delivered the body slam of all body slams to Andre the Giant in front of 92 plus people. It wasn't really 92,000 plus people, but
Screaming Hulkamaniacs.
But I think it was around the time we got Hogan, Warrior, Perfect, Big Boss Man. It was around the time WrestleFest was introduced. And I was definitely a huge mark for Hogan. I was definitely a huge mark for Ultimate Warrior and such. It was around that time I even wanted some sort of Hulk Hogan memorabilia, action figure or such. And my mom did get me a Hulk Hogan lunchbox. But it go transition all the way to the new generation, where I was a huge Bret Hart fan. Like, this dude really could tell a story inside the ring. He was actually wearing one of the most, I would say, obscure color, because never in your life would you see a man walk into the ring wearing pink and kick some ass. That's why he is the best there was, best there is, and that's best there will ever be. And of course, going towards the 90s, I know I heard of WCW as well. And I've seen some photos of WCW. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, Ric Flair. Definitely the one that captures my eye is Sting. Shut the hell up, you phone. Okay. But I think it was around that time in which I was more towards WWE than WCW. Because when I've heard about Hulk Hogan going to WCW, it was like, no, there's no way. There's no way that my beloved Hulk Hogan will go to WCW. Well, back then when I was a kid, okay.
Yeah.
Of course, as kids, I'm going to admit it, I'm an idiot. I was a big with the Undertaker versus Undertaker. That was how stupid was I for believing that.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Oh, God. Jeez. Oh, my God.
Yeah. I'm just an idiot all the way up until, I actually understood about pro wrestling. Because it's not only towards WWE, WCW during the Monday Night Wars. I did get a glance of ECW. I think the first pay-per-view I saw was ECW Heatwave 98.
Oh, wow.
Off parents' black box. All right.
Wow.
Like the almighty black box where we could watch pay-per-views for free. Then there was Total Nonstop Action. But I think it was during the time they were in Orlando, Florida. Thankfully.
Right.
Because I know they've done weekly pay-per-views, and I'm glad I did not see that one. Because around that time, Vince Russo was around, and we know how poor. He's not bad. He could tell a story. He could write one good damn opening chapter, but following suit is like, what are you doing? Like, what are you telling?
Writing. Like in the time of his writing, it's more like Trash TV was like extremely popular, so it was more or less trying to capitalize on that kind of like phenomenon at the time. So it was like getting like must see like moments out there. So
yeah,
I think was he around the time for the Brian Pillman had a gun?
Yes, he actually was.
He was. Yeah, he was.
I was like shocked. I'm like, oh my God, I witnessed a murder on television. What happened to Austin? And then all of a sudden it's like, no, Austin ran away. He got safe. And it was like,
yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. But I think my love of pro wrestling grew when I started to get away from the John Cena phase and more into the indies. Because at the time I went to Bronx Community College. There was some wrestling fans in there. Shellshock,
like
I'm looking at you. But there was one, we call him Bentai. He introduced me to Dragon Gate and New Japan Pro Wrestling. And at that time, it was like, okay, this is actually awesome. I checked out Chikara Pro Wrestling. Went to they were the first indie show that I've gone to. And
Same here.
It was fantastic because some of the guys that Orange Cassidy, Eddie Kingston,
right,
the Young Bucks, they came from Indie Pro Wrestling. I know I've seen them in Chikara. Yeah, definitely.
Claudio Castagnoli's another one.
Yeah, Castagnoli, good one.
We've gone to Dragon Gate, in which we've done the VIP seating, and I still have the Brody Lee VIP ticket stored somewhere safe in my room. You know, at that time when I saw him in first, my jaw dropped, and I have a feeling he's laughing at me because of how huge he is.
Oh, massive person.
He's tall. From what I've heard, he's really tall.
As you can see, based off the shirt, I actually wanted to get involved in pro wrestling, and I decided to look up. I think it was Ace Pro Wrestling in New Jersey. But when I heard about House of Glory, that's when it's like, yeah, this is actually the legit place to go to. The guys over there are wonderful. The instructors, they really push you. And they now do monthly shows. And I think they're already in their I think it's like their 10th year. As far as I know. Maybe I'm exaggerating.
They've been around for a good while. That I do remember.
Yeah.
Yeah. But getting involved in pro wrestling really helped me out a lot to understand a bit more about not only the dangers of pro wrestling, but more importantly, the smarts of pro wrestling. What you got to do backstage, what you got to do before the show, after the show, so on and so forth. All the effort and the sacrifices you got to be able to put through. That I tell you, if anybody sitting on the couch thinking that they could that they're tough enough against a pro wrestler, no. Just sit down, enjoy the show, okay? I mean, you can holler almost anything, but nothing too insulting. Otherwise, get the fuck out. There's no way you can pro wrestling can do. No way.
Yeah.
No way, no.
All right. All right.
I'm going off the rails.
No, that's all good. Yeah. So I'll talk about my experience with wrestling and how I actually got into it. My dad was a huge fan of WCW, but I was very small, so I didn't really understand it. But I didn't really get into it until later on. But when I was getting into it, I was not really that into WCW. I was more into the WWF at the time. And I was flipping through channels, and I happened to pop into I think it was a Superstars or a Wrestling Challenge. I'm not sure which one. And the first wrestler I remember seeing, I believe it was Bret Hart. I don't remember. It might have been Bret Hart, or it might have been somebody else. But I know I have seen a Bret Hart match, and I actually thought it was great. But then it's at the time, I didn't really stick with it. I was off and on. Until around I want to say around the time when the NWO became a thing, when Kevin Nash and Scott Hall, or rather, Diesel and Razor Ramon left the WWF to go to WCW. Because my cousin was watching it around that time. He was over, and we were watching a bit of it because it was around the time when they were just invading, trying to take over WCW. And what I remember was that I remember there were times where they bought tickets just to be a part of the show so that they wouldn't get kicked out, pretending that they were just there for the show. But in reality, they were just there just to beat up the WCW stars. And then, in addition to NWO, around that time, the only other name that I keep hearing a lot about was Stone Cold Steve Austin, who was becoming a huge star in the WWF. So people were talking a lot about wrestling, and I got into it around the Attitude Era, but I remember everyone was talking about the whole Montreal Screwjob with Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart and all that, and how awful that actually was in terms of what happened. But I remember watching a lot of WCW Monday Nitro, WWF Raw, and also WCW Thunder came out around that time in '98. Yeah, WCW Thunder being a thing. Yeah, I remember that.
Right.
I'm not saying that it was bad. It was just like
It was just there.
It was there. Like there were some stars that didn't want to work at Thunder, and it's like they feel like their punishment was working for Thunder. Like
Was working Thunder. Yeah.
what I remember around this time was like for WCW, Chris Jericho with the whole like conspiracy theory angle that he had, and the whole reading the whole Man of 1,000 Holds, unmasking Juventud Guerrera. Like I remember all that. And his feud with Dean Malenko for the Cruiserweight Championship. I remember that was actually pretty good. Like seeing just seeing the Cruiserweights, like seeing Rey Mysterio, Psychosis, Juventud Guerrera, Eddie Guerrero and Chavo, Dean Malenko, like all these stars. It's like the first thing that you would see in Nitro, Cruiserweights. And then like you have to wait a while if you wanted to see like the NWO or any of the other big stars like Sting, Lex Luger. And during this time in WCW, there was one person who was on the rise that was to become a big star, and he ended up becoming that big star. And that person is none other than Bill Goldberg.
Goldberg.
Yep.
Goldberg.
I remember just watching the match where like he faced against Scott Hall, destroyed him, and later that night he faced against Hollywood Hulk Hogan, beat him in Atlanta to win the WCW World Championship. And
crowd went nuts.
They did. That could have been a pay-per-view match, but they decided to do it just because WWF has been beating them in the ratings after about like more than 2 years of being on top. Meanwhile, like WWF, they had Mike Tyson and then like the whole WrestleMania match with Tyson being the enforcer. You had Austin, Shawn Michaels, and it was just crazy how like just that propelled the Attitude Era to new heights. Seeing X-Pac like jumping ship from WCW to WWF, the Three Faces of Foley, seeing Val Venus with whatever the fuck he was doing,
right.
Edge,
all sorts of characters, New Age Outlaws. Like God, it feels like back then, like the mid card was like just so strong.
Yeah,
like. And like anyone who had good name recognition and had like a decent set of like wrestling chops could like get over very well.
But for me, like
not only that,
you go ahead.
Yeah, it's not only the mid carders; it's also the lower mid card or the lower card because
mid card.
Gilbert.
Oh yeah, Gilbert. Yeah,
all right,
Gilbert. Yes.
Gangrel,
and then
best European champion,
Kai and Tai, and it's like Taka Michinoku,
Funaki, right?
You have at least some rate of mid to lower card. I mean, when I think of something that doesn't qualify for that, I think of Roadblock.
Oh God, I remember Roadblock. Yeah, but
over.
No, but for me, like, the turning point that solidified me as a wrestling fan forever was one date that I could easily bring up. January 4th, 1999, the date where, like, it was supposed to be Goldberg versus Kevin Nash in a rematch, but then Goldberg got arrested, and then at some point in the night, Tony Schiavone was like, unlike us, our competition is taped while we're live. So, on their show, Mick Foley, who once wrestled for us as Cactus Jack, is going to win their title. That's going to put butts in their seats. Well, people switched over, watch the WWF, watch Raw just to see Mick Foley win. And
win the world title.
Like, my mom was not pressuring me to go to bed, because usually, like, whenever I wanted to watch wrestling, like, when it hits a certain time, she's like, go to bed. But I wanted to watch. And then it's like, this time I was like, no, I wanted to watch. And
Did
I
you?
did.
So you did change the channel.
I did change the channel to WWF, watched it up to the end, and then I switched back to WCW right afterwards, only to see the whole figure poke of doom.
The figure poke of doom.
This solidified me as a wrestling fan. Except the only thing is, it solidified me to be more into the WWF than in the WCW side when I was watching both.
Looking at it right now, it's funny because I've never heard. There's two interesting things about it. First off, the arrest about Bill Goldberg, it was about aggravated stalking. Earlier, they wanted to do, and I hope this doesn't get demonetized, they say that they wanted the charges for Goldberg to be charged with attempted rape on Mrs. Elizabeth, which is like, wait a second.
They're trying to go for like
it was so stupid. Like
they're trying to go for like edgy, you know, like again, like eye-catching high headline kind of thing. That's what they're trying to really book for.
But, it was 100% tasteless, but it turned out that they faked the whole thing just so that Goldberg would be away, and then they had Hollywood Hulk Hogan instead.
But I think if you listen to the book, if you ever get a chance to be able to read The Death of WCW or listen to the audiobook, it is just so fascinating because the whole story was that Bill Goldberg, you know, he did get arrested, you know, it was a fake trial and all, you know, it was pretty much false accusations until Miss Elizabeth told the truth. And the fact that the precinct, the location of where Bill Goldberg is being held up, it's only like 10 minutes away.
10 minutes away from the...
It was 10 minutes away, yeah. But yeah, for me,
he could not make it in time for his match.
Yeah, but going back, like I've been into it like a lot. Seeing a lot of wrestlers come in, like jumping ship from WCW to WWF, and then it's like 2001 when WWF bought WCW. Then they had the whole invasion, came and went. Ric Flair comes in. Then they start to do the brand extension. The NWO came in. WWF changes its name to WWE. And then the Ruthless Aggression era, I was watching that a lot, watching Tough Enough, because around this time, I was watching a lot of WWF nonstop.
And a lot of like WWF content around it. So
yes,
because they had like WWF Confidential at one point. They had like a lot of like just like splinter like low like a lot of like show that they had just like to expand like their reach. You know, all that.
Like I just kept watching a lot, but it was around I'd say like late 2000, like mid to late 2004, and sometime 2005. I was kind of tuning out a little bit. I was starting to get burned out. I would still watch every once in a while. Like I would still watch WrestleMania and everything and Royal Rumble. But I was starting to tune out a bit because I was starting to get burnt out around this time. So I was watching off and on. And then like the whole and in 2007, like with the whole incident with Chris Benoit.
Right.
And
funny enough, like I think I came back to wrestling like again like before that a bit, but like I remember that was like one of the big things I remember that shocked me, like because at the point I was back into like watching weekly because I had friends in high school that were watching, you know, alongside that we discussed like the morning after, and I remember that weekend distinctly. Like I know we're like veering off topic a little bit, but like God, that I because I remember like I actually liked watching, you know, the WWE version of ECW for a bit, even though I know it wasn't like the real ECW.
Yeah,
it was almost like a nice little like third brand of like, you know, they had their own like misfits in here and there. But like, you know, when I paid attention like a lot to the WWE draft, and so when they drafted like Chris Benoit there, I'm like, okay, that could be good to like really shake things up.
Yeah,
and then they're really like building up to like have crown like a new like ECW champion, and I'm like, it was supposed to be him versus CM Punk.
Yeah,
and I was like, because like, you know, I was like, you know, Benoit is definitely gonna like, you know, win that belt, and then really like just steer them in like a whole new direction, and then. God, I remember like tuning in because like it wasn't just that, but it was also like the death of Mr. McMahon storyline going on.
Yeah,
and, like like the limo blew up, and everyone was like wondering, "Oh my God, is he dead?" And so we had to tune in next week to see like what was going on. So everything was like going like all hunky dory, and then there's Vince standing in the middle of the ring, no fans, spotlighted him only, and you know it's like, you know, rest in peace, Chris Benoit. I'm like, the fuck happened? Yeah,
when I heard that because I think I was I was at my friend's home. She ordered Night of Champions because I've gone to her home
Right.
I'm still a huge mark for wrestling. And Night of Champions, in my opinion, is actually one of the best pay-per-views to do, to have, all the title belts on the line.
All the belts on the line, right.
And I was actually interested to see CM Punk versus Chris Benoit. These two were quite my favorites at that time. And then all of a sudden, John Morrison came in, or Johnny Nitro. And was
back with Johnny Nitro. Like,
yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah. Also forget like that. I also forget like that night. It was actually Vengeance Night of Champions, like because they fused Vengeance and that together.
Champions.
Yeah,
but like I remember that oh god, what specifically about it like I feel like in a weird way because that he was still like the Johnny Nitro character, but like funny enough, winning that belt kind of turned him into John Morrison, which is one of those like weird like butterfly effects in wrestling in a way.
He pretty much evolved. He pretty much evolved from Johnny Nitro to John Morrison.
John Morrison. Like he had the
Johnny
whole like
Elite, to Johnny Impact to Johnny Uno to Johnny whatever his name is.
Johnny last name.
And now he's Johnny Elite.
Right. Pretty much like.
Here's the thing: I can't wait for Johnny Nitro or actually Johnny in general to come into the House of Glory so that we could just hear Johnny Glory.
Oh my god.
There's like there's a lot of potential with that. Like it goes literally anywhere. But like reeling back to 2007 a bit, I remember like just like how it was like a really like unsure time because like a couple years before, obviously when Eddie Guerrero passed away, I think that was actually like one of the things that kind of slightly brought me back into wrestling, which is weird enough because like I was out of team of the product. I remember reading like randomly in a newspaper that Eddie Guerrero was like dead, and I'm like wait, really? Like what happened? And then that led me on like a little bit of rabbit hole of like trying to figure out like how was the WWE in the current state of it is, and then I hear stuff about like what they're doing now. Like ECW's coming back apparently, the whole Money in the Bank concept, stuff like that.
Yeah,
and I'm like. It's kind of shitty that like I had to come back because of like a death that happened, but like because like I loved watching Eddie back in like old WWE, like Latino Heat, Eddie when he was in China.
Yeah.
But looking back to like those times where wrestling was like in a dark period, like that was like kind of like but I wasn't sure if like I mean like at that point like I was realizing that wrestling was predetermined / fake, whatever you want to call it. Like I think that's a good question I never noticed. Like when did you guys realize that like it wasn't like legit? Like
when
yeah.
I gotta really think about that one. I honestly feel like it probably was around the time when I was like sometime in the Attitude Era. I kind of knew, but but there was one term I did not learn until like sometime after that whole debacle with Chris Benoit. The term that I ended up learning was kayfabe.
Kayfabe.
Yeah, and once I learned that, like I learned more the terms like baby face, heel, what a work shoot is, what a shoot is, kayfabe,
marks.
Marks, smart marks, you want to call them that. Also, like so many different things, like a lot of the ins and outs.
Right, like once you realize like the backstage elements of like wrestling, I feel like it was around the time it was during the 2007 like part where I'm realizing that hey, something here like at that time I was like a little bit more wise because obviously say oh you watch wrestling's fake. I'm like I don't care, like it's entertainment to me.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I feel like there's a point where like I really realized that I'm like hey wait a minute, hey wait I thought these two hated each other, like why are they best friends, shit like that where we're trying to commit to the bit like outside of the ring. Like I don't know if there's like a specific point where I realized, but I'm like there's a point where I was like smart to realize something in here is a little bit like it's a little bit screwy,
Yeah, exactly. But there's this.
What about you, Zeno?
Zeno?
Definitely one person I'm going to blame.
Who?
John Cena.
Oh God. Oh my God. The rise of
Cena did kind of ruin everything.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
This guy, is he? Shoulder block. Whatever that thing is. 5-knuckle shuffle. Just make sure you get a towel to wipe it off your face.
Wait. Wait, I know the exact incident. I maybe believe it was fake. Now, it was when Cena got kayfabe stabbed by Carlito's.
Oh my god! Oh my god! I remember that.
Wait, just to let you know that this actually happened in real life, not with the John Cena, but I think it was Tanahashi.
Tanahashi, yeah,
he got stabbed.
His girlfriend stabbed him.
He's actually a rock star in New Japan. So,
right.
Unfortunately, there was a stabbing that happened behind the scenes in wrestling that ended up killing a wrestler. There was
Bruiser Brody.
Yeah, Bruiser Brody got stabbed in a show in Puerto Rico, and then he got killed.
Right. There's a lot in wrestling that ends up being like Dark Side of the Ring style things.
Oh yeah, there definitely would be. Not to mention, for me, it's like I really got into wrestling way more around 2011, around the time that the infamous CM Punk pipe bomb. And
the pipe bomb.
but before that, like in 2010, I started to watch the show NXT.
The NXT show.
But there was one wrestler that actually caught my eye more than anyone, and that person is known as Daniel Bryan or Bryan Danielson.
The American Dragon.
Because he came from Dragon Gate, he came from Ring of Honor, and so many other places, finally making his way. Because originally, when he signed in late 2009, he didn't sign by himself. He signed at the same time as Nigel McGuinness, but apparently Nigel failed some sort of drug test, which led him to getting released, and he went to TNA instead. And
I don't think it was a drug. It was a drug test. It was like a history of like his. It was like health, because like what was it like he had like seizures and stuff, or like concussions.
He had I think he had like hepatitis C.
Right, I think it was something like that. Like
that, if I'm correct, it was one of the wrestlers that gave him that. One of the wrestlers, shut the hell up.
Oh my god!
I'm gonna have to mute this phone. Okay.
Yeah, mute that phone. But yeah, go on.
Hold on. It's
unlock the device.
Shut the.
Oh my god!
I
think
your phone's
one wrestler that caused that big problem was Abdullah the Butcher.
Oh yeah,
right. Yeah, there was a huge like Hep C like issue when it comes to like was working like so unsafe with like a lot of like. Like, I feel like that's also like where like I understood like how like with wrestling being fake and all, like how you're supposed to like take care of like your opponent, stuff like that. Obviously, you want to make sure that they're in the best condition, that you're not hurting them, trying to shoot on them, and that you're trying to like just get to like a good match and try to entertain the people. Because in wrestling there are winners and losers, and all the shit that you see in the ring is very much real. That that's pain being inflicted, because like you're trying to minimize it as best as possible. So when you put like that kind of trust in someone else to like not fuck you up, and something happens, it gets a little weird.
Yeah, it really does. And honestly, it's like when Abdullah the Butcher was inducted to the Hall of Fame, and there was controversy surrounding that. People were like not happy with his induction, considering the fact that he had no involvement in WWF or WWE, and also the fact that he's known to have been giving because he had hepatitis C, and he ended up just
infecting so many people that he worked with,
and he never told any of the people he worked with about it, and they didn't know till after the fact. He sold the ring years later, and he even justified it, saying that he owed WWE nothing. So like, honestly, whatever. But it is terrible that he would do that. But yeah,
I'm actually looking. When was he inducted in?
2012.
No, 2011. Okay, so it was around the time in which WWE have already consolidated WCW. So they'll use any wrestlers from WCW or ECW as well, or if
right,
throughout the entire world.
Yeah.
Give me a hot take, but I'll actually take him over Donald Trump.
You know what? I'll be fine with that too.
I'll say. I'll go back a little. I'll go back a little bit back to like to McGuinness, because like I actually read Brian's book that he wrote when he was at WWE. Like he did say like some of the same things that happened to McGuinness, not the Hep C stuff, but like the injuries and stuff like that would have like maybe disqualified him from working for WWE. Because like Ring of Honor, like he got banged up like a good amount of times. Like he had like there was like one time he wrestled with like a detached cornea, which is fucking gnarly. I can't imagine like wrestling like that. Like he was like hardcore as hell. Like I think honestly NXT was like where I first actually probably learned of Bryan Danielson, because like a lot of people actually, because this is when I was getting more like into using like a little bit more like internet stuff like that, and people were talking about like this guy's like best guy in the indies, like he's gonna like really like shake things up in WWE, blah 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 blah. And I watched the first season of NXT. Like I actually like watched it, like because obviously when ECW was like was going down, I was like, all right, what's this whole NXT show that they're gonna like pull out and see all these rookies, Wade Barrett, Michael Tarver, fucking Darren Young, who looked a lot like John Cena.
He did, yeah.
But still like was like, well, Heath Slater, Justin Gabriel. Oh my God, there's like
Skip Sheffield,
Skip Sheffield, the eventual Ryback and Daniel Bryan, and then of course seeing like where that led into the Nexus. I like really, I think that was like one of the first instances of where I liked the heel wrestlers more than like the face wrestlers. Because like it was cool. Like it was like nothing you've ever seen before. Like it was like I remember like the night they debuted, and they destroyed the ring and all that shit. It was like it was nuts. Like I felt like I was just watching just like pandemonium. I'm like wondering what the hell's going on. Like where's the referee? Where's the security?
It's the other
like,
wrestlers.
Where's the locker room to like empty like fucking duff these guys? And I'm like this. I remember like a lot because like, it was like during a CM Punk match, like when Punk was wearing the mask because he had his hair shaved, and I'm like, damn, like they kicked their asses. Like they beat up the announcers, they flipped the table on them, they broke the ring down. Like god damn.
Daniel was actually choking Justin Roberts.
The tie.
Oh yeah, that I remember that he did that. That whole thing, and then they lost because Cena refused to let them win, and he actually regrets it now. But at the time, like he thought it was the right decision to have WWE win. But
okay,
go on.
When they, that's actually one of the biggest hottest takes that has ever happened in SummerSlam. Ooh, there's a tone right there between hot and SummerSlam. But anyway, I've always heard about that in multiple stories. Daniel Bryan was definitely one of them, in which it was that he got fired, but then he came back as a surprise guest. Jericho and Edge talked about that a lot, in which it's like, the Nexus should win.
Right.
And
They should
actually
go over.
Vince's choice that John Cena should win because he wants the crowd, or actually the kids, to go home happy. But it was John Cena who decided how the ending went, in which Jericho and Edge done their best to say, no, this is actually going to make things worse. It happened. It was a very lukewarm victory. And John Cena later regretted saying, "Yeah, that shouldn't have happened."
It didn't. No, because like it was like their first like big outing as like the group all together. Like they should have like gone over. Like looking back at it now, and also like the way how like they freaking dropped on the goddamn asphalt, and the motherfucker got up like 2 minutes later, just like AA both of them won. I'm like, the fuck.
Cena wins LOL. But
that was like peak LOL. Cena wins. Like, that was the point where I turned on Cena. I'm like, motherfucker, like you should have been beaten.
You should have won. You should have lost. Like
they didn't get their heat back after that. Like in the whole like they have Cena join the Nexus. I'm like, it didn't work. Like I fucking stopped wearing my Nexus armband like around and shit like that. I'm like, fuck this shit. I bought the damn armband too. Like I was invested in the storyline.
Yeah, like that sucks.
It's even funny because they even have Cena join the Nexus, but he still wear his Power Rangers outfit on a weekly basis.
It made no sense.
And then have him fired.
It didn't even help.
And Juan Cena.
I want to see, I want to see that whole Juan Cena thing that they did.
Oh my god!
Deprive me of Juan Cena.
Oh my god! Let me tell you this. Here's a fun fact. Everything that happened with the Nexus. So we're gonna fast forward to 2012 real quick because and this is like around the time like after the Shield made their debut. There was a match. I believe they were facing against John Cena. Vince wanted the Shield to lose, and then the three of them all went up to Vince McMahon and convinced him that it was a bad idea, and even brought up the Nexus and everything. And then Vince was like, "You know what? You're right. You're gonna win." And then, they won.
Do that. You know what? You're right. You guys are gonna go over. You guys are gonna beat John Cena. Do not make it that convincing.
Yeah.
He is my homeboy.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that.
But yeah, like, so the Shield won, and then they ended up going on to become a much more like threatening group. Like, they were actually really good. They became like top heels at the time until they split.
Right. And eventually they all became champions.
And then
they became faces, and then
and then you had the whole thing with Roman Reigns, where he was like the whole he cut the whole suffer and succotash promo.
They really have to make Roman look strong, guys. That you have to realize.
Though Roman Reigns now, like, he's a far cry from what he used to be. He's much better, but now he's still like 2 years as Universal Champion as of this podcast right now.
I acknowledged him.
Yeah, taking out the tribal chief.
Acknowledge me. But yeah, so I've been into wrestling a lot. I was kind of losing interest around like 2018 because like when I was getting tired of the same old crap over and over again. Then 2019 was well, before that, 2018 there was one show I decided to watch because I wanted to see how it was, and that show was called All In.
Oh, definitely, I remember.
So I've seen All In. Thought it was a pretty good show, and then that eventually led to All Elite Wrestling.
Right.
And now here we are, we got All Elite Wrestling. They've been around like for about like 3.5 years. More than half, but yeah. And they ended up getting a lot of people, like, because it was Cody Rhodes, the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, they were the main people, Hangman Page. And then it's like they ended up getting other people. They got Bastard Pac, formerly known as Adrian Neville from WWE. They got Chris Jericho, Billy Gunn as one of the coaches, and I think Sean Spears, and then Darby Allin, Sammy Guevara,
right.
And then later on they would get John Moxley, which
Party.
Private Party.
Those guys should have been champions.
Yes.
Quite upset about that, to be honest.
Yeah.
I feel like we're getting to with like AEW and like how they've like done things like it's been like again the trajectory of wrestling has like changed like a lot over the years where like some people like a lot of people like say like what really brought them back was like the pipe bomb of CM Punk, but then there was a point where like people were just tuning out. They were like realizing hey, who's this Kenny Omega guy? He's doing like 5-star matches in Japan against this guy called Okada, and then there's all. I feel like for a lot of people, like that crossover was still kind of like building up. Like for me, like I believe like the moment where I was looking into like other promotions was like actually Wrestle Kingdom. I want to say 11 or 10, where Jericho faced off against Omega.
Oh yeah, that match. Yes, that was insane.
I was watching that on places on the internet, which I'll not reveal.
Yes.
Because like I was wondering because like what was this whole hype about like like New Japan, and I remember very very distinctly watching I forgot how old he is, but like he's in the 50s beating the shit out of someone else, and that man was Minoru Suzuki.
Yeah. Not to mention the fact that we had like so many different shows in general. It's like what I remember was that because like 2014 was when CM Punk decided to just like leave, and then last year was when he came back, but this time he went to AEW, and now there's a lot. And now there's like a lot of things going on with him to the point where there's a good chance he might be fired now.
He could walk, leave, whatever. It's I don't know, man. Like it's very clear that he still has like a chip on his shoulder about certain things, but that's kind of his fault because
he decided to just bring up all the stuff that he shouldn't have brought up like publicly.
Right.
That's more on him. But overall, wrestling, like, and I will say 2022, we're not even done yet. 2022 in wrestling has been insane, and a lot has happened, like the whole Sasha Banks and Naomi thing, and also the big one being the whole sexual allegations with Vince McMahon, the hush money, and now he's gone. He's gone.
Now I mean, he's still a stockholder, but like in terms of like the day-to-day operations of like the company, he no longer has power in that.
No, he doesn't.
Once he said, double G, double O, double N, double E, gone. Which doesn't pronounce that.
Because, like,
I think OSW said goon.
I'll say this right now, like, the only thing I'm gonna say about the whole Vince McMahon thing is that he's had it coming for so many years, and I'm hoping that he finally is going to be held accountable for everything.
And the crazy thing is, he was prepared to like fucking die in Gorilla. Like, he was like, God, even though he was like just like in his like, it's weird because like at that point I was like wondering like what the hell are they doing there, and then I realized it's a 70-year-old man who's still in charge of like booking this stuff for modern era, and I'm like, he's like should be back in a retirement home like fucking counting his money, like he's done it all, but like he's just like still keeping his hands on everything. And I'm like, he should have been gone like ages ago, but like it's him just wanting to like be there, like he was like very stubborn on these,
Yeah, he was.
You know what's very interesting?
What?
No.
Is that there's been discussions as to what they're going to do about Vince McMahon in WWE, some sort of like appreciation or maybe a Hall of Fame.
I don't know what they're going to do. If anything, it's going to be like years after the fact. They're going to do like now.
No, like I honestly, I'm not expecting it for like. And the thing is that at this point, like, I think it'd be better if like anything about like him being in the Hall of Fame does not get brought up into any discussions on who gets in, because with everything that's going on right now, I don't think he definitely deserves it. So,
well, his father is in the Hall of Fame.
That was
different. That's true. This is like wrestling and such. I would say, if you want the best way for Vince McMahon to exit, you should just redo 2007 all over again. Have the limousine blow up again.
No. I honestly, at this point, it would not work now.
I have a feeling that as grim as this is, they're gonna do like posthumously, like after he's like gone from this mortal plane, maybe they will, but like we don't know about that yet because again, we're not at this time.
Right.
Anyway, again, wrestling's gone like in such a weird like position, and there's a lot that people can credit Vince for, but at the same time, a lot that's come to light, doesn't really exonerate him from just the responsibilities and the consequences, because
exactly
a lot has happened in the business that have been his fault, been a result of his decision making.
A lot of it, yeah.
It's affected many lives in the process, many like livelihoods of people. It's a very, very at some point. There's a point where he was wrestling, like even though he didn't like the word wrestling. He wanted to be sports entertainment. He still was wrestling, like taking it, like killing the territories, centralizing everything into like the WWE machine, and trying his damnedest to do that. And like,
he actually bought WCW before 2001.
Like all the
it wasn't good. And he just sold it back.
Oh yeah, the whole like Black Saturday thing. Yeah, I remember that.
Right. The TV slots and everything.
But yeah, and also I wanted to bring up a comment from PBT Maverick, and before you know it, you're fired.
You're fired. He's like this. He's just like got like a real just like gravely voice in it, like.
Yeah. All right, so let's go to the next topic, because we actually spent a lot more time on this one more than I thought, but
it kind of melded into like other topics, which is fine. Like,
yeah,
I think we jumped to topic 4.
Yeah,
I think we can go back a little bit to like
So basically, like we jumped to topic 4 in a sense. So we're gonna go to the next topic, which is the best eras in wrestling. So Silver. Which wrestling eras do you think are the best? Like, for example, Attitude or Ruthless and all that stuff.
See, like the thing is, like it's gonna be like defined more by like WWE terms rather than like just like wrestling as a universal whole. But like I'd say, like for me, the best eras have been obviously the Attitude Era. Like that's like really where wrestling really hit the mainstream in such a way that people has it's never been like that ever since.
Yeah,
but at the same time, like it was like captivating because like at that point wrestling was like as big as ever. Like wrestlers were on the same level as like movie stars, TV stars, and it was like it was something to be like alive for, where like you do the fucking crotch chop and like people were like, hey, DX, or you can see grandmothers in the crowd reciting the New Age Outlaws like intro, verbatim, like it's one of the things where it's just like surprising. You see the commercials, you see the I guess like the culture at the time. It really was like peak '90s at the time, and then when that faded out, I want to say is that I like to like maybe during Ruthless Aggression, but like it was still trying to find itself because like after Rock left for Hollywood and after Austin was kind of trying to like he was pretty banged up. They're really trying to like build like the new stars. Lesnar was trying to was being built up and he left for his own for football. Like it was tough because like they were in like a recovery era. And of course, eventually they had Cena, Batista, Orton, and Edge really like had a character company back then. But like I'd say like definitively, I'd say the Attitude Era, big one. I don't call like this one like some people call it the new era or whatever like that. But like the elite era. I don't know. People call it like that. But like I'm pretty sure like the era of like of like AEW. Like I feel like it's like been a good one because like legit competition for the first time in like more than 20 years. Wrestling coming back to Turner Networks for the first time in 20 years. Just like an actual like alternative. Where it wasn't like another big like billionaire backing a company, and trying to like really like give WWE like a run for their money and succeeding in a way. I'd say because like I remember like watching a lot of like AEW shows and like wondering, okay, this is good, but like when do they start fucking up? What's going to be the moment where they're like, they got too big for their britches, and WWE is gonna stomp them, or they're gonna like they're gonna clown them or whatever. And it never really came. Like they played it very smart. It was very hard getting used to, like, I guess, the AEW style because like I was so used to like the WWE style of wrestling that I didn't realize like how hard it would be to like kind of transition over like the production values, the style of wrestling, how they do like the vignettes and the interviews and stuff like that. Time limits and all that stuff. Like not seeing matches in a DQ or a count out. That was kind of refreshing for a bit.
Yeah.
It was a lot to like kind of like move over to, and then the fact that like it still like it wasn't like in its own like bubble. Like the main thing about WWE is like it existed in its own kind of ecosystem.
Yeah.
Where like wrestlers were they're going quote unquote around the world wrestling before they came to WWE, and not naming like where they went to. AJ Styles obviously coming from Japan Impact, into WWE. He's like, he's wrestled a lot around the world, blah blah blah. He won this belt, same as Lesnar. And I'm like, what the IWGP? It's like, we're not gonna fucking tell you that. Like, figure it out yourself, nerd. But like, and then but then like the thing about AEW is like it feels like some other like promotions. New Japan, Impact, Game Changer Wrestling, Stardom, Tokyo Joshi Pro. Oh my god, like all Japan, Noah. There's like so many like promotions just off the top of my head that I could think of like that like had wrestlers kind of like run through the AEW system. A lot of like indie acts here and there that's like stopped in for like a cup of coffee or just like stuck around as like mainstays. Like there's a lot of like characters I didn't see prior to AEW. Like Orange Cassidy is definitely a big one. Like I never really got it until I watched Double or Nothing when he I feel it was Double or Nothing where he debuted. In the Battle Royal when they had like the original Dark Order, like with the Reapers.
I worked with Orange Cassidy before. Dude is so freaking fascinating, his gimmick and such.
Yeah,
I've always said like it takes a lot of effort to like be like that. Like for someone to like pull off like a whole like slacker gimmick, they've had to like put into work as like someone as someone who's like on like balls to the wall, like trying to be like the best wrestler ever, doing a bunch of flips and shit, and like really like going for like major like work rate, and then he realized I don't have to do this shit at all. I could just like be this kind of character and still get over. Like I feel like that's the major thing that really like I got to like experience with like stuff with AEW. The amount of gimmicks that would come in and that would like get over organically, like with WWE, like there was sometimes where like it was very forced gimmicks. With like it's very clear that it was like a director from like The Office, like, hey, we don't have this kind of character, be like this kind of. They're trying to build like like they're trying to like really quote unquote build stars, but their gimmicks weren't really like a good match for them.
Yeah.
Whereas with AEW, like it felt like a little bit more more nuanced. You know, obviously with Orange Cassidy, obviously, you know, being all like, you know, sloth like, you know, Lucha Brothers, you know, being crazy like Mexican lucha wrestlers who are like crazy and it's like out there. Private Party, like I like the whole like party aspect of them. You know, the whole Velvet Rope and everything.
Oh yeah,
I thought that was really.
Yeah, the thing is that with AEW they brought in wrestlers from indies, and they got organically built. And on top of that, some of these wrestlers, they weren't just in the indies. Like I believe El Penta and Phoenix were in Lucha Underground and
Lucha Underground,
Impact. Who else was? They were mostly indies, of course.
Not all of them were like indies, like just right. Like I mean, Darby Allin was in Evolve actually, I think prior to AEW, I believe. Like and like Evolve and what was it called? Like New, I think, like Northeast Wrestling or WWN. I forgot. You know, Championship Wrestling from Hollywood.
Yeah.
You know, the NWA was like he like around still a little bit too, so they had like a little bit of overlap there. Because remember Cody won the NWA belt for Nick Aldis at All In. Like I feel like a lot of like new era, like the new era in wrestling just like spreads out so far. Because like again, you see like all these wrestlers from different areas, and it's just like you know how can I get to see them? And now with like stuff like Fight TV and like IP previews stuff like that. Like if you want to like watch wrestling, there's like so many different avenues to like really like watch a show.
Yeah,
and like there's always like a star that's like over from like somewhere else. You know, in GCW there's Effie and Natalie Catch and like Nick Gage and those kinds of people. It feels like I always like hear about like this like huge like rising like fast rising star from like this other like you know like indie and like I feel the major thing here is that like, the indies have like strengthened so much.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah. What you got?
But yeah. I'll say this though, like everything in general has just been like really good with different eras of wrestling, and how evolved wrestling has, how much wrestling has evolved over the years. But what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say like one thing. I forgot to involve like one specific era. I wouldn't even call it like an era, but like definitely like a period in time. 2016 SmackDown.
Yes, 2016 SmackDown was like. After the draft,
like when they had SmackDown, when they had SmackDown Live,
Dean Ambrose was champion. He was feuding with AJ Styles. This was after, and then when AJ Styles beat John Cena at SummerSlam, and then you would have the whole rivalry between the Usos, who just turned heel and ditched the whole face paint thing and replaced it with the whole Day One-ish thing, and. Not to mention, like, them versus the New Day has been absolutely excellent.
Right.
Then you would have, like, so many different stars in general just going at it. Within the whole small, like, ecosystem of SmackDown. And they had writer Brian Ward, I believe, who came from NXT.
Ward, yeah.
He came from NXT just to... Of
course.
Right.
Yeah.
And everything was great until 2017 when they decided to fucking put Road Dogg on there.
Right. I feel like I can't forget NXT as well because like you know I think that was like the first WWE show like I did besides Raw in the Barclays was actually NXT Takeover with Pete. Like we went to the first Takeover show at the Barclays because it was crazy because like you know Finn Balor and Kevin Owens, Sasha and Bailey.
Yeah.
Freaking Jushin Thunder Liger was gonna be there. I'm like
one night only too. I guess Tyler Breeze. That was actually great. But we went to 3 of them. Like we missed the 2017 one, but we went to 2015, 2016, and 2018. 2018 was basically NXT was basically like the rise of Adam Cole. That's what it really was. Cole. The rise of Adam Cole, because like going all over the place, and then like when we were just like on our way home, we keep hearing people say Adam Cole, baby. And the same thing happened when we were coming from the Arthur Ashe Stadium last year because Adam Cole just went to AEW, and now like and then like everyone just kept saying the same thing. I don't know if like he'll make a random appearance, like make it like a return from injury, but we'll see.
It'd be nice, but like you know, you never really know. Like yeah, like there's like just so much with like that, like the NXT era, like leading into like AEW, like because like we're really like catching along with WWE. I keep forgetting like over the years what's really NXT. like NXT changing from its reality show format to becoming the FCW coming to NXT, with Sami Zayn and Cesaro going crazy there.
Yes.
AJ Neville, if it's a champion, like a lot of like stars that they're building up here and there. Of course, the women's division with the four horsewomen, like Charlotte, Becky, Sasha.
Revolution.
At the time, Paige was there.
And Paige, and Emma.
Paige and Emma.
Yes. Emma were there. Alexa Bliss was getting built up there too.
Rusev was there back when he was known as Alexander Rusev. With Lana.
Team tag teams, the Lucha Dragons, the Vaudevillains. My God, the Ascension. Even though they got ruined on their main roster, which kind of pisses me off a little bit.
even Xavier Woods was on there back when he built himself as from Angel Grove, and he would wear like Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Trump like outfit, or Ninja Turtles, or even Sonic, for example, because of his love for video games, which led him to having Up Up Down Down, and now he's on G4 TV. Which good for him. He's done so much.
All right, God, again, it's one of those like just forgotten eras of like NXT being like almost like a quote unquote super indie, being run by Triple H, with the every time a new star, Triple H comes in with the point. He's like, yeah, we got this guy.
It was basically Ring of Honor with a much bigger budget.
Pretty much,
yeah.
Right, but I'll throw it back to you though for era speed. I was like my brain is like had a brain fart. I was like I forgot those eras specifically.
Yeah. All right. So I want to hear from Xeno your favorite eras in wrestling.
It's very rough because I'm definitely going to go with the Attitude Era, but I'm going to take Monday Night War eras because it wasn't just WWE around that time. WCW actually caught my attention with guys like Diamond Dallas Page, and Goldberg has been another. Non-NWO guys, because of course Wolfpack was also over, but hindsight, some of the guys shouldn't be there, like Lex Luger or Sting. That was actually pretty big question mark right there, or asterisk. But I would definitely say the Ruthless Aggression SmackDown era. I believe this was around the time Raw was on TNN.
Right.
TNN, Spike Network. I couldn't be able to watch it. There was no way that my channel has it. So it was like, you know what? UPN 9.
UPN 9.
Friday night, SmackDown. And I would go crazy for it because I would bother my grandmother for some money for snacks, grab them at the corner store, head over to my side of a two-bedroom where I share with my sister, just watch SmackDown and see Guerrero, Taker, JBL, Batista at that time. And I would definitely be more of a SmackDown person than a Raw person, because SmackDown really did have the wrestling. They definitely had guys like Lesnar at his peak, Kurt Angle, Los Guerreros,
the SmackDown, the SmackDown 6, that era. Yeah,
Rey Mysterio was another. Looking at like the late 2000s into the 2010s, it's kind of a rough moment because I wasn't anti-Cena at all. I did like the guy, but then it comes to the point where it's like, whatever he's getting involved in, it's a little too much. I think the one era I definitely do not like was the guest host era, because that was, it was definitely, I would definitely give a pass to Shaq O'Neal, give a pass to Bob Barker.
Oh, that was great. Yeah, I remember that one with Jericho.
Yeah, definitely. Who else would I give a pass to? I would say this because of Jericho's book. Ozzy Osbourne has gotten the pass as well. Jesse Ventura, where he forced Vince McMahon to join him in the commentary table.
Oh yeah.
But so much, it's like, oh man, this doesn't feel good. They're just plugging in whatever they want to do. It's even funny because I think NASCAR was involved in it And I definitely did like NASCAR at that time, but the two drivers are not the right people to get involved with. And they don't have attitude. And on top of that, it was held in Buffalo, New York. Not necessarily a good place where you want to be able to do a promoting not only these two people, but also the video game that they were releasing at that time. What was it? 2010?
Like that, like the guest host era. I would say.
Well, it was around that time, but I was saying like the SmackDown game, SmackDown versus Raw.
Yeah, that was 2010. Like
2000. Yeah, that's what was going on at that time too. Because like by that point it was up to 2011.
Yeah, because the drivers would sponsor GameStop, and GameStop would just plaster any kind of video game related sponsorship on their cars. And it's just sad that it's only on a Saturday, not a Sunday. But I would say the rise of indie promotions, that was actually the best era.
Oh, yes.
Because that gave me a chance to explore outside of pro wrestling, outside of the mainstream, outside of WWE Impact. Gave me a chance to know about House of Glory. Gave me a chance to know about Chikara. Dragon Gate has been another. What was it? ROH.
The Ring of Honor, yeah.
Ring of Honor.
Yeah, we would get a lot of Ring of Honor shows here.
CZW has been another, but I wouldn't be able to consider it as a major one for me because I think around that time I wasn't too much into trash hardcore.
Oh yeah.
I think they would have like the Tournament of Death.
Tournament of Death, CZW. That was like their marquee events, if anything.
They were mainly catering towards like the ECW crowd that hated anything within the mainstream, but did not want to support certain indie promotions because it was not what they were looking for. So CCW was for them.
Yeah, it's even funny because I think it was actually a promotion earlier in Los Angeles, California, somewhere in California, where they were trying to rival against ECW. I think they called themselves XCW or something like that. I think so. I got to look it up. But they were trying to appease to the extreme wrestlers, the hardcore kind, and those people do not know how to book life for their shit because that several wrestlers in there nearly got themselves killed. So to say.
Yeah, like some of them went like too far to like really entertain people. Like hell, like Nick Gage like died for like 40 minutes technically. Where he survived.
We're not talking about what I'm saying is like not like wrestlers who like try to kill themselves for entertainment. I'm actually meaning like legitimate try to shoot on them like for real. Yeah, New Jack and Vic Grimes.
New Jack. Yeah. God damn.
Like
I would say the current generation that we're having right now, despite how toxic it could be, because I think the lightest one was the whole Cody Rhodes debacle of returning to WWE and how much people are like slandering him, like pretty much putting up these dumbass tweets as to how much they hate him now for going to WWE, how much betrayal and such. And don't get me wrong, I get it. He did started a company, AEW. He was supposed to be like their savior, so to say, along with bringing in something different and such. But if you're not really understanding about pro wrestling business and such, then you're really pandering to the negativity. You're really being part of the toxicity of pro wrestling community. That's something that pretty much is like, definitely something that we're not going to see eye to eye on. Something that is really going to annoy me to the point where it's going to get something physical or such. So I actually unfollowed a friend that I know within the community, that another community that I'm in, just because of what he said. And it was like, you know what, Shellshock, is there a way we could share like a photo or such?
No, sorry.
Oh, okay, because it just reminds me of the time I was with Cody Rhodes, learning from him just for what, 1 or 2 nights. And you know what? I'm gonna say the House of Glory era as well.
Yeah.
Yep. Might as well put over your own company.
Oh yeah, of course.
Okay.
All right, put him over. Come on, do your thing.
Has been a great era of learning pro wrestling, and also working with guys like AJ Styles. LAX has been another. Ortiz and Santana. Homicide has been another, and also Private Party. Worked with them. If I have to say the top match in House of Glory, I would definitely put the Private Party versus the Broken Hardys.
Oh yeah, that was a thing. Yeah.
Yes, it was the main event for the biggest show ever. High intensity. Mark Quinn, Isaiah Cassidy dancing with Jeff Hardy, big hip hop theme and such, and you got Broken Matt Hardy, just giving like a dad dance or such. Hold up the song and called me out, which I was a referee at that time, for not joining in on the party. He got the crowd rally in for a single dance. I can't break kayfabe. I can't smile or anything. I have to look as scared and horrific as possible while we're doing quite possibly like ballroom dancing. 15 seconds.
Oh my god!
And since that day, I'm actually looking at a picture of Broken Matt Hardy, just waiting for that second dance. You know, just imagining me with Wolverine and. I have to say that was like the best match I've ever refereed in. So, you know, so many errors. Of course, there's at least a few I wouldn't like. That's my personal take. But Attitude, House of Glory, SmackDown Ruthless, and the Rise of the Indies.
Yeah.
I would call those the best. Oh, also AEW, you know, the starter.
Yeah. Got you.
Yep.
All right.
So I guess I'll talk about my favorite eras in wrestling. Obviously the Attitude Era is definitely up there for me because that's the one I remember like being the most invested in when I was like a kid to like a teen. Also like the early NWO was great. I feel like the moment that NWO started to really lose its luster was the moment that they started to add so many people to the point where there was an NWO A team and there was an NWO B team, and then you have the NWO Wolfpack, you had the LWO, you had so many other groups in general within WCW. It got to the point where it was so overwhelming, but honestly, the best parts of NWO was when it started in 96 up until like 97. To me, I felt like it stopped being like amazing around the time of Starrcade 97 after the match between Hogan and Sting, when it was supposed to be like a DQ finish that was supposed to be restarted, but it ended up but Hogan ended up just changing it at the last minute because Hogan does what Hogan does best. And
fucking politic.
Yep.
Yeah, it was supposed to be a fast count, but Hogan switched it to a regular count.
Yeah, because Hogan wants
Patrick, who's supposed to do the fast count, says, "Yeah, it was fast. No, you did it. You did a regular count.
You did a regular count.
Yeah, and that actually made Bret, and that was Bret Hart's first night in the company, and that made him look stupid right off the bat. Which that in itself is just basically Bret Hart's tenure in WCW not off to a good start. Which they fucked up with Bret Hart in WCW for the simple fact that he was coming off the Montreal Screwjob. He was the hottest wrestler in '97, and like he beat Stone Cold in WrestleMania. He was a WWF champion. He knocked Vince McMahon out, and coming into WCW, and they had nothing for him. They didn't really have anything for him. Like Eric Bischoff didn't know what to do, and eventually Bret Hart said in later interviews that that Vince McMahon even told him that, and he was right. He said Vince McMahon was right about one thing, that WCW was never going to know what to do with Bret Hart, which and it was right, but it's like Bret Hart. Say what you will about him. I mean, I personally like him a lot. He's he's my favorite wrestler. But say what you will, but I will say this though, that despite his run in WCW not being that great, he still had some really great matches. Let's see.
He actually made the U.S. title legitimate.
He did.
I recall. Yeah, I think it was like 5-time U.S. champion.
Yeah.
He actually became a triple crown because he was also tag champion with Goldberg, world champion as well.
Yeah, 3-time, I believe, in WCW. He was 5-time in WWF. And he's like a 3-time U.S. champion in WCW.
Oh, okay, 3-time.
And he won it one more time in WWE.
Well, we don't count that. Get that out.
Yeah, but anyway, let's see. Other eras for me, the new generation era, I did not really watch a lot of when it was like new, but I did watch a lot of the Raws. Like I watched every single Raw from '93 up until like there was a point like in '95 when they were building up to WrestleMania 11. And I was starting to get sick of like the '95 Raws already. I didn't even get to finish it because I was watching them all on the WWE Network. And it's like the new generation era, like '95 was just the worst, but they managed to get out of that. And WCW was starting off with Nitro at the time. But I will say, in terms of other best eras, the Ruthless Aggression era for WWE. When, like, for me, like, the first, like, 3 years of it were great. Like, up until, like, around the time when, like, the draft happened and John Cena went to Raw. But for me, the best times was, like, Kurt Angle having, like, he shaved his head bald because he lost the match to Edge. He decided to try to hide the hair that he had. And eventually he was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm bald, so I'm just going to get used to it. The debut match with John Cena. You had Rey Mysterio making his way to the WWE at the time, making a lot of noise. To the point where there was a point where I think that he and Edge were tag team champions, and I know that Edge was also a tag team champion with Hulk Hogan around that time too.
That did happen, right?
That did happen. The rise of Brock Lesnar. You had Team Angle. You had Charlie Haas and Shelton Benjamin. But out of those two, the one that ended up like getting a much bigger push between the both of them was Shelton Benjamin. Charlie Haas, not so much. Let's see. Los Guerreros. And then also, like, on the Raw side, the supposed Triple H Reign of Terror with, like, him wanted to stay as the champion for as long as possible. Evolution. You had Chris Jericho with the highlight reel. The whole, like, and also one thing I'll bring up was like the one match that people need to always remember. It was like the last NWO match in WWE where Kevin Nash tore his quad.
They see Kevin Nash, they always change the channel. Click.
But he tore his quad.
Just like your kneecaps. Click. Click.
Oh, man.
Like, no, but like that was just amazing. And then the next week, NWO was retired by Vince McMahon, and then he ended up bringing in 2 general managers for Raw. It was Eric Bischoff, which was a huge surprise. Like, no one ever thought that Eric Bischoff was ever going to go to the WWE, and he ended up being a general manager. Which, let's be real, he was actually one of the best general managers. He was actually great.
I would say he's actually one of the best general managers. I would actually personally take Teddy Long over.
Oh, don't get me wrong. Teddy Long is great too.
Eric Bischoff.
Yep. And then Stephanie McMahon was the general manager, which she was all right. Lasted about like a good year and a half as a general manager, and then what I remember was around that time, like WWE, they were trying to have Raw and SmackDown compete with each other to the point where there were wrestlers jumping ship from Raw to SmackDown, and there were wrestlers jumping ship from SmackDown to Raw. I remember how, like, for example, they stole the Un-Americans, which I believe had Christian, William Regal, Test, and Lance Storm from SmackDown and brought them to Raw, bringing the tag team championships there. Only for that. And then, like, what happened next was Jericho jumped ship. What I find funny was how Eddie Guerrero, like, Chris Benoit was originally on the SmackDown brand during the WWE draft, the very first one. And then, for whatever reason, he was on Raw. Then he ended up going to SmackDown anyway with Eddie Guerrero. And fun fact, Eddie Guerrero was supposed to be facing against Stone Cold Steve Austin sometime around, like, the spring of 2002. But Steve Austin did not want to work with Eddie Guerrero for whatever reason. But it wasn't the straw that broke the camel's back that led him to leave. What was Vince wanted Stone Cold to job to Brock Lesnar for a King of the Ring qualifier. And Austin was like, fuck this, I'm out of here. So he walked out. And we did not see Austin again until, like, the build-up of No Way Out 2003, when he was going to wrestle Eric Bischoff in a terrible match.
Well, it was actually a spectacle match. Because if I recall, Eddie Guerrero actually got fired for his substance abuse. But he actually kicked ass in the Indies.
And then he came back.
And, even worked with Amazing Red, SAT, and even stated that he would love to see Amazing Red versus Rey Mysterio, which did happen, I think, 10 years in the making following his passing.
Yeah. The other thing I remember was that after he re-signed with WWE, he still honored a few Ring of Honor obligations before he was full-time.
As Intercontinental Champion.
And one of those matches he had was a young CM Punk.
Ooh, actually, did that happen?
Yes, it did. Because I remember watching last year, like, I believe it was the week after CM Punk went to AEW. Like, he had an interview with Jim Ross, and he talked about how he treasures his match that he had with Eddie Guerrero at Ring of Honor. While Eddie Guerrero was the WWF Intercontinental Champion, and he was, because Eddie Guerrero, I think that was his last match at Ring of Honor, because he was honoring, like, he was trying to finish off his dates that he had before being full-time WWE. So Eddie Guerrero and CM Punk did happen. Yeah,
that was a IWA.
It was IWA. Well,
yeah, but it did have. That's actually shocking to learn. Wow.
But they did wrestle each other. Yes. It's like if people were like, "Oh, I wish that CM Punk and Eddie Guerrero face each other." They did once.
They did.
But CM Punk was still pretty young, and Eddie Guerrero was already established. He was the Intercontinental Champion at the time, which he ended up losing the Intercontinental Championship after that to RVD in the ladder match, which I think Eddie was supposed to win, but they did an improv and call an audible and had RVD win it, all because of a fan. Because there was a fan that just came into the ring and just pushed the ladder, and then, like, Eddie basically decked them.
That deserved it.
Yeah.
Like, legit, please, guys, if you're all on chat or viewing this, guys, don't be an asshole. Don't go inside the ring, because the moment you get inside the ring, the referee included has full privilege to beat the living crap out of you.
It's open season.
Way more embarrassing if a referee actually kicks your ass than a wrestler.
You
gotta get you out. You gotta get out of there. And you know what? It's even worse. You're banned for life.
I'll say this much. Like, there's been a lot of, like, fan altercations, but there's one that I'm going to bring up that I easily remember. This was back in 1997 in a WWF house show, and it was a match between Stone Cold Steve Austin and Triple H. Triple H was the heel, and Stone Cold was the babyface. They were wrestling, just having a match, just a typical match that they would normally have, and all of a sudden a fan comes in and attacks Stone Cold. Stone Cold was about to beat him up, but then Triple H just basically took him and instantly destroyed him. And before they took him out of the ring, Triple H destroyed this fan. Holy shit. so many punches.
My friend.
and what's and what's funny is that in the end, like after that match, like in the back, Triple H and Stone Cold talked about that, and Triple H said that it made more sense. Like, he brought up a good point. It made more sense for him to be the one to attack the fan and not Austin, because Triple H was the heel. So they felt that it would have made more sense for him to do that. And Austin was like, you know what? You're right. That's okay. So it made sense in that personal regard. Originally, like, Austin actually wanted to beat him up, but and the thing is, you can find that on YouTube as well, because granted, the quality is not that great, but you could still see it, and it was just insane that happened in the first place. There is one more era I want to talk about before we move on to the next topic. I'd say out of all the other eras, I will also say, for me, one of my favorite eras ever was basically NXT 2014 to 2018. Like, amazing stuff. I could not get enough of NXT around this time. Like, just seeing all these stars, like how we talked about it earlier, but just seeing all these stars who came from the indies, came from like different promotions in general, and then there were some wrestlers who came in from the main roster, and then they gave them a second life. But there were some that just didn't work out. Like Brodus Clay, like they were trying to turn him into this heel, and now, like basically he's just like he's a joke now. But yeah,
his dinosaur stuff was actually very entertaining.
Here's the thing. I didn't mind the whole Funkadactyl, Funkasaurus thing that he did. My problem was like they built him up for like months. And then that happened. It was so weird, but at the same time, everyone was like, "You know what? Maybe this could work. You never know." And then, at the very least, like the only person who survived that was actually Naomi.
Yeah.
Here's the deal. If you don't win a championship, okay, that's actually not really gonna help you with your legacy or such. But a gimmick is actually one of the best things that can really help you out.
Oh yeah.
Like. I would say like The Undertaker and Kane, like those two don't really need to have champions.
Championships, yeah.
About, but the fact that how long the longevity, oh my god, my pronunciation, and the matches they got involved, the rivals that they had, it actually worked out for them. Ted DiBiase is actually another great example. Roddy Piper has been another great example. One of those would be pretty memorable. Never really won any champions, so to say.
Yeah. Like
I saw say Lex Luger, but he won the WCW title. So
he did. But yeah, that whole WWF run that he had was just something else. Like Lex Luger, they tried to push him so hard, and then they ended up having cold feet at SummerSlam. Like he ended up winning instead of having a clean win, he ended up winning. I think it was a count-out win.
Yeah, it was. Look,
and
Shellshock.
Yeah,
I'll tell you. I don't know about. I definitely got to watch a couple of his WWE matches because I think it was after WrestleMania 10. Yeah, that's when he started to Luger up. You do not watch a Lex Luger match for the quality, okay? Forget about that. He's not good in the ring, okay? Forget about it. You watch a Lex Luger match for his selling, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, anytime he gets hit, anytime he throws a strike,
yep.
Anything he does is all his yelling and grunting, and then forget about it.
Oh, yeah.
You would never, ever hear about, you would never watch a Lex Luger match anytime, the same anymore.
Oh, yeah, totally.
The selling.
A Road Warrior match, I don't care what the Road Warrior does. All I care about is Hawk. All I care about is Hawk gonna no sell a pile driver? That's the only time I get excited. Is he gonna no sell a pile driver? Please do a pile driver on him.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, before we go ahead and go to the next topic, I want to bring something up from from Derek DeBroni because he asked about what are our least favorite eras. We'll just do one each.
One each, dude.
Silver, you go first. Your least favorite era ever?
Early PG era.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just did not work out for me. Like, granted, there's a reason why they did that, you know, and it just felt weird, you know, that they were trying to cater towards, you know, the kids. I mean, wrestling before had like a kind of like a, I was like kid friendly, but like they were trying to, they had like a market for that, but like they didn't have to like say, hey, we're doing PG. I felt like they could have like slipped in and out of the whole PG TV-14 stuff. Like, it just felt way too sanitized for its own good, you know?
Yeah. What about you?
Never liked it.
Yeah. What about you, Zeno?
Little tough, so to say, but I definitely gonna have to agree with Silver on this one, the PG era. Preferably, I would say WrestleMania 32 to towards, I would say SummerSlam 2016.
Yeah.
2008, 2008, because I'm trying to remember about 35 in the pandemic and such, because I think it was because they pushed so much with Roman Reigns. John Cena was also winning, but the thing about John Cena was that he was actually getting doing some improvements. If you put him in the ring with the right guys like Kevin Owens and AJ Styles,
your US Open Challenge, like that was.
Can click, and John Cena's US run was actually pretty funny.
Yeah,
but it was actually around that time in which it just it didn't click with me and such. Plus the injuries really hurt
injury season
pro wrestling and such. A lot of toxicity started to grow around that time.
Yeah,
so definitely I would say between 20, actually I take that back, 2015,
yeah,
all the way to 2018.
Okay, that's fair. For me, believe it or not, it's actually my pick is actually not even from WWE. You want to know what my least favorite era of wrestling is?
All right.
The moment that Hulk Hogan went to Impact, the moment he went to TNA.
Oh, of course, I can forget Hogan.
Yep.
Hogan and Bischoff in TNA trying to like fucking do the Monday Night Wars 2.0 and failing
like
horrendously.
It got to a point where I was expecting TNA to die, and now they ended up rebranding to Impact. They're much better right now. I mean, they're not great. They're not perfect. They're trying their best, but oh my god! Like I was actually thinking about getting back in it. Because I've kind of fell off of TNA, and I was thinking maybe I should just get back into them because I was kind of like, maybe I should just watch them alongside WWE. Oh, like,
man!
Not to mention just seeing Kurt Angle at his low point around this time with the whole drugs and also the drinking with the DUIs that he's been getting. And also one thing I got to bring up was I think it was Victory Road 2011. It was Sting versus Jeff Hardy that lasted for like 80-something seconds. Yikes! I agree. Like if I have to talk about what I personally think is the worst match ever, that's it. Like even worse than anything that is from WWE or even WCW.
Wait. Back to that match. Like I remember, like in the Hardy documentary that they did on WWE Network, the fact that they pulled that match, and I'm like, oh shit, they're really going into that match. Like
Shellshock.
Like, oh my god, the way my jaw dropped.
This is actually a very important question.
What's up?
It's either that match that you have to sit through, or Charmel versus that chick from
fucking what was her name? Jenna something. Oh my god, the -5 stars match.
The T-Rex slaps that even makes.
Oh my god.
Offensive.
Anyway, I think
Jenna Maraska versus Charmel Victory 2009 -5 stars.
Okay,
so it's either Jeff Hardy and Sting in a very 2-minute match, or Charmel and Jenna Maraskis. Which one?
Oh
Which one? You got to choose which one would be the best.
I'll still say that the worst one was the whole Jeff Hardy thing. I'm still gonna say that. But that the other one's up there. It's up there.
I mean, I get it. Jeff Hardy was actually at the low point.
Maverick says that his favorites were like from early '80s to the Attitude Era, which is really good stuff right there. All right, so let's move on to the next topic. So. We'll probably make this one short because like we went on with a lot of stuff. Like we already did the fourth topic, so the third topic is favorite wrestlers of all time. So Silver.
Okay, favorite wrestlers of all time. This is always like a tough one because they fluctuate a lot, and sometimes I feel like I'm never consistent with like who my favorites are. But like if I could name like I'll write it off like as best of a list I can. But like, of course, growing up, Attitude Era, Austin and Rock were definitely high up there for me. The Undertaker was definitely high up there for me as well. Funny enough, like Chris Jericho definitely really appealed to me. Jericho was like it was a long time for me because like he was definitely different from like the breed that they had there, and of course since I also knew that he was in WCW. That also like really stood out to me as well. Again, it was like I'm going by like who I picked a lot in No Mercy, and also who I based my who I based my moves off of because like I stole a lot of moves obviously because like to build my own wrestler, and like they were pretty good. Was a big fan of like I was like back then a big fan of Chris Benoit. Like before situation that happened in 2007, like. I always go back to like Royal Rumble 2001. Like his match with Chris Jericho for the IC title. Like, classic match. Going from there to like the old Attitude Era. I wasn't a big Cena guy at the time. I was still very much an Undertaker guy going up. Into Ruthless Aggression. I think I paid a lot of attention close into like the Cena Edge rivalries that were going on because Edge was like really. Like shifting into like a whole other gear, with Lita, the rated R superstar, era of Edge. Going from there, like the Hardys were still were pretty much big for me. Matt and Jeff Hardy were also like phenomenal wrestlers that I look back on very fondly. But then shifting into more of the newer era, CM Punk definitely big one because like I followed their career from from ECW into as they went to the pipe bomb and such. I remember like just having a lot of favorites from NXT. Obviously, Finn Balor was a big one. Hideo Itami / Kenta. There was like all the news that they brought in. I actually liked Baron Corbin. Boy stable, love it.
Oh yeah.
NXT Corbin or
NXT Corbin, like by far. F the Indies Baron Corbin, where he was like, go back to Ring of Honor.
Oh my god,
it didn't work there. Like, there's like a lot of wrestlers. I feel like my definitive favorite, like as of like current, like right now, has like been Jon Moxley. Like,
oh yeah, Jon Moxley. Yes.
Ambrose was my favorite in the Shield, by far. Not that I didn't dislike not that I disliked Reigns or Rollins, but like in my tier list, it was Ambrose, Rollins, Reigns.
Yeah,
and and then I remember watching Double or Nothing because like I was watching off my phone, and I remember this well because at this point like Peter and I were like at our friend Mike's place when it was happening. It wasn't like a watch party, but like, we were there for our own thing.
Yeah,
I remember watching on my phone because like it was the first AEW show. Like, we got to see how the show's gonna work. Like, is it gonna be a disaster? Is it gonna suck ass? Is it gonna be really good? We got to know.
And you called me over.
Yeah, I called you because like fucking Moxie's like walking through the crowd. I'm like, look, it's.
I was just like shocked. Like I was like, holy fucking shit.
Oh my god! Like that is great.
Yeah.
Like a lot of favorites I have now in AEW: Moxley, Jungle Boy, Bryan Danielson. Kenny Omega's been like a good one for like a good long time for sure. And then if I slip into like a little of New Japan, Okada, Minoru Suzuki, definitely a big one. Wasn't a huge Tanahashi guy, but like Tanahashi is like I respect Tanahashi. There's a lot of people who I consider as favorites of all time for many different reasons. And if I ever quick look five, it was definitely Jericho, Moxley, fucking Suzuki, and then like later on, like I feel like I've slotted in some newer faces here and there because they've been phenomenal. So Bryan Danielson, obviously, because I followed the whole Yes Movement storyline into WrestleMania 30, and then of course CM Punk is still there. Granted, CM Punk the wrestler, great guy. CM Punk the person, we all know how that shit goes.
Yeah.
So that's a crash course in like my favorite wrestlers. I might have forgotten some here and there. Oh, can't forget them. One of my favorite tag teams, Deuce and Domino. Love them. Can't forget them.
Yeah.
You always gotta shout it out to your boys.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
Voice stable.
So, Zeno, what about you? Your favorites?
Actually, looking for actually,
got a list.
Because I just
got a list, don't you?
I remember there was actually a new favorite wrestler that actually won one of the most prestigious championship of all, which is the Iron Man Heavyweight Championship over in Japan. That wrestler is a ladder. 3-time champion, man! 3-time champion! That ladder has got it!
The DDT Iron Metal. Oh, God.
Hey! If I would still go pro wrestling, I would love to work for DDT. I will definitely win that Iron Man championship. I would put that blow up doll over in some fashionable way. But speaking about champions, but wrestlers, definitely we're looking at a huge list of wrestlers that I definitely followed. Some of them have fallen off, but if I were to say, I would say put in like 10 besides the guys that I've worked with. Bret Hart has been one of them. He actually brought me more into pro wrestling with his expertise in making the story in the ring, his technical skills, and also the sharpshooter is just one of the most beautiful things you could ever see in pro wrestling. And there's a great debate whether it's the Scorpion Deathlock or the sharpshooter. And yeah, because of how Bret Hart could be able to utilize that move in various ways. Such DDP would be another because of his contributions, helping out with guys in the ring. He I think it was one story in which, of course, if you're part of the NWO, the guys who are figureheads, Hogan, Hall, Nash, the contract stating that they could that whatever they say actually goes, in which Macho Man, in which I'm going to put Macho Man as well. So we got DDP and Macho Man. So that's 3 right there. In which Macho Man actually wanted to take the Diamond Cutter and put DDP over. That was actually the best talk to watch throughout '97. And then from there, DDP got the nod for, I believe it was Karl Malone, and DDP is Dennis Rodman and Hogan, and then Jay Leno, of all people.
Oh God, yeah, I remember that.
Jay Leno and David Arquette too.
David Arquette, ready to rumble.
Yep.
But he also helped out with Goldberg in that match that very few people has gotten a chance to see on pay-per-view. But if you're watching on Nitro, you got it for free. AJ Styles is definitely another great wrestler that is one of my favorites. I'm very shocked as to how comedic he could get. He could be a serious wrestler. He could be fascinating in the ring. His time in WWE, Bullet Club has really made a great mark in his career. But then if you take a look at his early years, it's weird because he would be like this whole Christian stuff and such.
Oh no.
I'm sorry for that one, but he would call somebody the F word.
Yeah, he did say that.
Some people like do like counseling just like to like get a rise on people.
Well, here's the deal. When he does it outside of out of camera, it's always a joke with several other wrestlers. I think he said that to Chris Sabin, and then Chris Sabin retort. It was an opening of Botchamania. Botchamania, and at least when I say this, AJ Styles is such an amazing person. He is amazing, both
inside and outside of the ring. He could be a comedic goof. He could be a serious wrestler. He's amazing. I mean, he did survive the Karen Lynch story as well.
Oh God, that.
Yeah.
Right.
Olive. I forgot her name.
Yeah.
Popeye's wife.
Olive oil, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Daniel Bryan's definitely another one that is my favorite.
Yeah.
I believe it was not only his early years in WWE, but it was around the time he started to chant yes, chant no, team hell no. That's when, in my opinion, if you're able to pretty much show personality and be a comedic goof, but also be serious in the ring, you'll have a lot of miles. You show that you could be versatile. New Day has been another. Every single one of the members, in my opinion, is quite possibly the best tag team, trios, even single wrestlers, because Xavier Woods can go in the ring. You know, he actually solidified himself with the King of the Ring. Kofi Kingston and Big E has solidified themselves with WWE Championship. They all got great personality. Their ring gear speaks out to anyone. You don't have to be, you don't really necessarily have to be a fan of pro wrestling to get the wrestling there that they have. It could just immediately click right. Asuka has been another. I definitely would love to see Asuka pretty much rise up once more. You know, it is just wrestling, but it's also gaming as well.
Yeah.
The Undertaker. Surely, definitely. I can't help it. Face Undertaker, heel Undertaker. I actually like the American Badass version.
Yeah. I actually liked it too. Like, I mean, it was different, but like, you know, I feel it was a decent change from like, you know, spooky Undertaker, because like maybe they needed a break from that, and it was a nice break. Some people thought it was like weird or like just bizarre.
Yeah,
I think they looked at it very well, like storyline wise, you know.
Mick Foley has been another, but I would go more towards Dude Love, because I feel like that's something that actually connected to me when I was a kid. Like, I wasn't too much with Mankind. I actually was intrigued by Cactus Jack, but then when I heard, hey,
oh, the Dude Love, yeah.
Oh yeah, Dude Love.
Yep.
I would choose Dude Love over any of the two gimmicks and such.
Oh my god.
Of course, I would definitely go with the guys from House of Glory. I worked with Ken Broadway, Montequita. Man, it's actually really gonna hurt me saying Manny. He is a wonderful wrestler as well. And in my opinion, if he was still around, he would actually make waves in not only House of Glory, but throughout the independent scene. Leroy Green has been another. Definitely, I highly recommend check him out, because he's the Nintendo Switch guy, so to say.
Oh, really?
While playing on his Nintendo Switch.
Okay.
Yeah. Smiley has been another, as well as Amazing Red and Brian XL. A lot of the guys from House of Glory.
Right.
Another one. And we're talking about independence. Danhausen. He actually grew into me. And wait, I'm gonna need to capitalize it, because you can't say it regularly. Warhorse.
Yes, Warhorse. Yes.
I look. I have my license to rule ass in my drawer over there. I got like some merch from him, so it's very nice.
Yeah.
I do. It's in there. I just want to frame it and hang it up. That's the thing. Like, yeah, it's all signed and everything too.
Oh yeah, totally.
I think I would definitely put Medusa as well, because I've met her at Monster Jam.
Back when she,
wow.
Yeah, because I know she was
Like,
also
like
Alunda Blaze.
Wonder Blaze, right?
When she was actually driving monster trucks. This was actually around the time WCW and Monster Jam had a collaboration with wrestlers, but she would be the only one to drive her own vehicle. And then she actually continued on until I think 2014, 15. It was due to injuries. So yeah, it's pretty amazing. It's pretty shocking that even driving something like that could take a toll on your body. But she retired now. She's on Twitch. She's actually taking care of animals, still physically fit and such. And let us not forget, she's a Paul Heyman gal.
She is.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
All right. So I'll go with mine right now. All right, I got a couple. Don't want to spend too much time on it, but I got a couple that I want to bring up. Bret Hart being one of them, obviously. Grew up with him wrestling all the time with the sharpshooter, the Hart family that he has. Rest in peace to his younger brother Owen.
He is not a nugget.
Yes. he is the Black Heart. He is the King of the Ring winner, the King of Hearts, Slammy winner,
two-time Slammy winner.
2 times.
Yes.
Did it himself.
So in addition to Bret, Owen Hart, Stone Cold Steve Austin is definitely up there for me. Like to me, like the Attitude Era, you can't think about the Attitude Era without Stone Cold Steve Austin, obviously.
Yeah. That's true.
Let's see. Other ones, like I grew up as a fan of Chris Jericho.
Ooh, I forgot about him. Yeah, he's also my favorite.
Let's see.
I said Jericho.
Booker T is another one. I like Booker T a lot. I've also been a fan of Sting. Been a fan of who else? The one that's on my shirt, Kevin Owens, easily. Or AKA Kevin Steen in the Indies. Though that's his real name, but yeah, Kevin Owens. I hope to meet him someday. Bryan Danielson / Daniel Bryan. Been a fan of his since like the NXT days. Because I didn't watch a lot of Ring of Honor, but I actually like knew who he was. But that was when I really started to get into him, and even more so with the Yes Movement. And now in AEW being like the #1 contender for the championship alongside Jon Moxley. They're gonna face off this Wednesday.
Ooh. That's actually very interesting.
Yeah,
that's me for Dynamite. I'm looking forward to it.
Like the only other wrestlers I'll bring up, let's see. I'm a fan of Sasha Banks, Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair, Bayley, like the 4 horsewomen. I'm a fan of all 4 of them. Paige is another one I'm a fan of. Trish Stratus, Lita, Chyna, may she rest in peace. Asuka, I absolutely love Asuka so much.
That's a great person.
That's a big one.
Ember Moon / Athena, I'm a fan of hers. There's a lot. Ruby Soho. I can go on and on with like all the women as well. Like there's so many.
So Shida, Riho, like
yes.
Maki Ito.
Yes. Not to mention also want to give a special shout out to Brody Lee, may you rest in peace, and also for this year alone, like one of my favorite wrestlers ever passed away. Scott Hall, aka Razor Ramon. Absolutely loved him so much. Uzi Machismo all the time. Like say hello to the bad guy. I absolutely loved him so much. Yeah, and yes, Jim Ross is easily like the best commentator. Not really a fan of Jerry Lawler, to be honest.
Well, at some moments, Jerry Lawler does have a great shine. Okay, it was acceptable at that time, but then there are moments.
But then, like,
we've actually
something they will.
Those years, it's actually changed. King, you gotta switch it up. But I think he's now. I haven't checked up on Peacock, but I think he's on Storytime now.
Yeah, I believe that he does do like a lot of narration of that now. Like he's around. He's still with the company, but he's not like a major figure. Plus, I think he still like runs his wrestling company like in Memphis.
Yeah.
I mean,
He's still
Kingdom.
I mean, he's still the king of Memphis.
Like, I don't know. It's just, the reason I don't really like him is because of all the misogyny, like with the whole like whenever like he would shout puppies and all that, and how like he is with like a lot of the women wrestlers, flirtatious and everything. It may have been acceptable back then, but looking back, it's a lot of shit that does not age well. Same thing, like
A lot of shit.
as much as I enjoy the Attitude Era, I'm gonna be real. A lot of this stuff does not hold up to this day. Like I will say, I think like brawn and panties matches could stay in the past. Don't bring that back. Instead,
there's a lot that can stay back there, honestly.
Instead, like I mainly want to focus more on high quality wrestling matches, and see exactly just how far wrestlers can actually go, rather than including like the Shock TV stuff and all that. That like a lot of the stuff that worked back in like the late '90s, early 2000s would not work today.
Pretty much.
But like
Pretty much. Yeah.
But yeah, so those were like some of the wrestlers. Like I can go on like name a lot of them, but those was like some of the ones. Oh, Keith Lee, easily.
Yep. Bask in his glory.
Bask in his glory. Oh my god.
We'll see my Grand Slam against the Acclaimed.
Yep.
Yeah, I actually forgot about Mitsuwa because he was actually my inspiration.
Misawa
Misada.
Yeah, Misawa, because the roaring elbow, the elbow strikes, the emerald explosion.
Right. 4 pillars, man.
Yeah, and his presentation, big tough dude.
Big tough guy, yeah.
Yeah, that was anytime I hear about a Misawa match, it was like, oh, what's going on? This is a Misawa match. Oh, let's do this, man. I want to watch it, man.
Yeah, but it's like, for me, like there's been so many great wrestlers who unfortunately are no longer on this earth, like Mr. Perfect, Eddie Guerrero, Owen Hart. The list goes on, and a lot of wrestlers have unfortunately died way too soon. And for one reason or another,
sometimes it's actually due to the business itself.
Yes.
Yeah. A lot of times before, I would say before Eddie's death, because that's when WWE.
The Wellness Policy.
Yeah, I would say WWE started it, but then every wrestling company should be able to follow suit, because if it wasn't for Eddie's death, and to some extent Benoit's death, pro wrestling would continue on with the same trend. And it's not just pro wrestling as well. We're talking about other sporting competition to go along with it. We're talking about football. We're talking about hockey. Baseball has been another thing, even basketball, about the whole trials of drug use and the important factors of concussion and how serious it has to take. I think AEW is actually working their way around it, because was it 2020 All Out that
yes,
Sammy Guevara had
the Matt Hardy Sammy Guevara match where Matt fucking smacked his head on concrete and like was very clearly concussed. Yeah,
and they didn't have any sort of answer to go along with that, and it was actually pretty wrong. So,
right.
They could have worked around with it.
Yeah,
I remember from that specifically, like Aubrey threw up the match, but then they put it back on. So it was a mess all around.
Yeah, the deal was that if Hardy lost, he would no longer wrestle in AEW. And
right.
Kind of like the point of Hardy actually, forfeiting the match. That's what kind of like visualized, which understood.
Yeah.
But then again, this is a serious thing.
They booked themselves into a corner pretty much.
Yep. But yeah. So those are just my favorite wrestlers. There's one last topic that I want to talk about before we wrap things up. How has professional wrestling impacted your life, Silver?
Well, it's fun to say, hey guys, I gotta go to my shoot job now. Bye. Like I'm using like a lot of like the terminologies, just like almost like weirdly casual, which has been kind of funny because like it feels like so weird to say that out loud. And people are like, what the hell are you talking about? Like work, you know, like I'm putting this guy over. Like I've never imagined to be like that much in the know when it comes to like wrestling. Like sometimes I feel like like I'm not that much of a wrestling fan, and then I hang out on Square Circle like every fucking day and just like read like, you know, not like dirt sheets, but like a lot of like reviews and like content. Like the amount, like I feel like about like a third of the content I consume on the internet is wrestling related in some way. You know, YouTube videos, podcasts, forum discussions, crap like that. You know, stuff like this where I'm just talking wrestling with like people that I know, friends. I order pay-per-views. You know, I do ordering like get-togethers. Like I bought like I got shell tickets to Grand Slam like when it was when a pre-sale was out there. So you know, like there's a lot that I've been able to like just like enjoy with wrestling, and like I feel like it's been like a very interesting thing to sink my time into. You know, it's entertainment, it's fun. You know, the wrestlers are very, very passionate. I feel like now more than ever, with how like social media and like internet has like taken root, like it's a lot easier to be, you know, more connected to the wrestlers.
Yeah,
forgetting, you know, it's been good or bad, but like I feel like, you know, you get to like understand their passion a lot more. They clearly want to like, you know, give you guys like the best bang for your buck, you know, good entertainment, and it's fun to see like how, you know, how they develop their characters, not just like, you know, in the ring, but also like outside of the ring as well. And it's just been fun to like really just look into that and like see also it's also great like as a creative myself, you know, character, you know, stories and how they're told, you know, character motivations and how they develop. You know, it's a very interesting medium. You know, a lot of people consider like pro wrestling be like the last bastion of theater, you know, like in the modern era besides Broadway. So it's interesting to see like how they write themselves into like, you know, stories. People still, there's still like a room for like stories to be told in this manner, which is great. And like it's very clear that pro wrestling has like a lot of great like elements to tell stories with, you know, and people are putting their bodies on the line for that stuff, and it's just good. It's very compelling. It's very, very nice, and you know, it's great that like, you know, for maybe for 3 hours at a time you're watching a show, you're just captivated by like what's on screen, you know, what they're trying to tell you, what they're trying to like impart to you, and then, you know, there's like a whole like universe of people out there ready to like just talk to you about this at any given moment, which is great. You know, I've really enjoyed like a lot of the aspects of it, from the community to the actual wrestling, and it's been great. I really enjoy it a lot. And granted, I personally never wanted to be a pro wrestler because like I knew I couldn't take pain, but like, you know, being able to be involved in a manner that I am involved now, it's nice. You know, I feel like I'll take that over anything. And you know, I'll probably never take a bump ever in my life, but like, hey, it's good to see like how people how it's changed their lives, how they've grown up, and how they've been shaped by the business. So it's been great. I really think it's affected my life in a positive manner. And honestly, there's a lot that I've like learned from like promos in the past too, you know, about like never giving up, you know, really going, you know, above and beyond. It's very motivating. It's very, very energetic, and I dig it. It's very creative, and it's, you know, maybe predetermined, but like it's still very much real in a cosmic sense.
Yeah. All right. Xeno?
You know, there's a lot to talk about, how much pro wrestling has impacted my life. First off, I'm going to say about outside of getting involved in pro wrestling. As a fan growing up with pro wrestling, it pretty much tells you a great cohesive story. It tells you about characters that you will watch on a movie, on a Broadway show, on the television show, soap opera, so on and so forth. The ideal story of two people feuding against one another for certain reasons, either because of a championship, because of a personal stake, because one feel they're better than the other in such field, because one wants to prove that they are the dominant monster in pro wrestling. And it's been going on since maybe the early days, maybe the circus life. Hell, Abraham Lincoln was a pro wrestler for all that we know of, and he could have bust some ass before becoming president of the United States. I wouldn't be surprised if that was the very first what we would call the Starrcade or WrestleMania of that time. Who's going to become the president of the United States? Abraham Lincoln or
I don't know whoever Abraham Lincoln opponent was. This is for the United States president's match. Winner rules U.S.
Right.
Yeah.
And, you know, I would say that it also gave me a chance to be able to connect with other people. In school, in college, my brothers has enjoyed pro wrestling. You know, it really, when something exciting happened, I would actually get in contact with my brothers. Like, dude, do you check this out? Like when Mankind fell off the top of the cell, or when Brock Lesnar superplex Big Show and the entire ring collapsed. That's when it's like an old moment.
My goodness.
And it really caused like so much memory, so much connection with so many friends and such. But then when it came into getting involved in pro wrestling, just learning how to fall on your back, in which, you know, you have to tell your mindset this is what you got to do for like the rest of your career. You're gonna have to learn how to fall on your back safely. You have to learn how to fall on your front safely. You have to learn how to flip without landing on your head safely, which is actually vital. Learn how to run the ropes properly, how to lock up properly, how to do all these things step by step, mastering what one of the indie wrestlers told me: master the basics, and then from there, learn how to choose your movesets properly that matches your character. What do you see? Because most people could just come in as a hybrid of what Austin, Undertaker, the Jeff Hardy ripoff that we've seen on viral videos.
Yeah.
But, you know, creating something your own, and I hate to say this, but there's no originality in pro wrestling anymore. We just take things and we just mold it into our own. Creating something your own, learning how to speak properly as that character, learn how to move properly as that character, interact with the crowd as popular, but even paying your dues, so to say.
Yeah.
Right.
It actually, getting involved in pro wrestling gives you the nuance, the knowledge, the sacrifices that you have to take. Is this something that you are willing to be able to do? Are you willing to be able to work out? Well, I would say like 3, 4, 5 days a week to learn how to take the pain properly. Learn how to be able to sacrifice anything that you'll be doing. Work, bouncing around, staying up late if you need to, set up the ring, set up the chairs, set up the ring guards, the railings, if you're not in the wrestling, if you're not booked as well.
Yeah.
Making sure you be respectful to everyone in the back, because I think one of the important things about pro wrestling, you know, is that you have to shake everyone's hands, introduce yourself, you know, try to be able to be on the good side, try to be able to show up every single time, try to be able to have all your gears, have your promos, show off your matches and such. And if you're not a wrestler, you know, being a promoter has been another important thing. It gives you a huge knowledge of how difficult it is to get involved in pro wrestling rather than being a fan of pro wrestling. Because, you know, everybody is going to have their takes. Everybody's going to have their opinions. Whether it's going to be legitimate, intoxicating, childish arguments and such. Everyone's going to have that. But once you get involved in it, to me, it's like, okay, it's time for you to back up those claims. Can you do it? Can you be able to prove that you're a pro wrestler and such? How far are you going to go? And here's my best thing about this, guys. Prior to, I would say, stopping pro wrestling, was that Full Sail University hit me up. And it's kind of like come to, you know, kind of like a fork in the road, where
you want to be able to you want to continue on with something that you dreamed of or enjoy, or go with something you feel it's not going to be helpful for you, helpful for people around. My instructors, Amazing Red and Brian XL, actually told me this, that education is very important. You know, you can go continue on with pro wrestling, you can go back to it, but you never want to fail the education.
Yeah.
You know, that's actually very vital. And so with their good graces and wishes, they allow me to go on with my education, go on with something that I've learned, that I'm actually going to be able to help out. And it's also come to the point in which it kind of feels like they become your family. You know, when you get involved in pro wrestling as learning, those people are going to be your brothers. They're going to be your sisters. Your instructors are going to, hopefully, your instructors becomes your family member. You know, your father figure, your mother figure, so to say. And then you'll learn from pros and such, because they do care for your health. At some, you know, they should care for your health. They're there to be able to let you make sure that you get in and out as less injured as possible. You know, because accidents do happen, and that, you know, they're all humans. So if you're feeling down, if you're feeling concerned or such, hit them up. Okay.
Yeah.
If you feel like, you know, there's something important out there, hopefully they'll be able to understand and they'll encourage you, because, you know, after all, we're all humans, and it's so much to say. And I thank House of Glory for not only giving me the education, but also realization that there's a lot of things important than just only gunning for becoming a pro wrestler. I mean, there's so much more for it, man.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I'm rambling, but it's just so much that I felt.
Oh yeah, totally.
It's good.
There was definitely a lot. All right. I'll do mine right now. Okay,
yeah,
so
that was awesome.
You
really put them over there, bud.
You really did. Like, I just want, but like I'll go over mine. Mine's going to be like this: that pro wrestling for me, like, I grew up with it. I have been a fan of it since I was like a little kid, and the fact that like going to like different events, whether if it's like the NXT takeovers or the AEW Grand Slams, or and not only that, but also going to that one Chikara show that we went to in 2011, Xeno, that was actually really good. Just, I think the main event of that was Fire Ant, who were going to become Orange Cassidy.
Right.
And Eddie Kingston. That was actually really good. Like, Eddie Kingston, fucking, like, that type of person as a wrestler, like, it's like, if I'm at this point, I'm like, if he can actually go and wrestle, maybe I could do it too. Except I'm not in the best shape, and not only that, but I'm also like, at this point, given like my age, like, I know there's wrestlers who have gotten in like much later in their lives, like Diamond Dallas Page was like in his mid to late 30s. But at this point, I don't have any desire to actually be a wrestler, for the simple fact that knowing everything that goes straight into it, considering you have to take so many risks, you have risk of getting injuries, you have risk of getting concussions and all that. But still, as a fan, I always have a great time whenever, like, I talk to people, like, other fans. Like, it's like growing up, just talking to people at school, like, during recess or, like, before class starts about what happened on Raw the last night, or what happened at the pay-per-view or something like that. And how all this meant to me, what all this means to me is the fact that just having an outlet, just talking to people about wrestling and being very passionate about it with people who are also very passionate about it, and just going to different events, seeing people like wearing wrestling shirts based on like their favorite wrestlers or the current trends in wrestling at the time, like whichever one, like for example right now, like the big trends being like how, like, well, all the AEW stuff in general, and a few WWE stuff, but it's mostly AEW right now.
Right.
And how like so many wrestlers in general have impacted my life in terms of the way I think about some stuff and learning more about what type of wrestlers, like what they do like outside of wrestling. And now like we have like a generation of wrestlers where a lot of them are into video games, a lot of them are into like a lot of the pop culture stuff. Because before that, the generations before that, what they really like to do was go out drinking and partying, pulling pranks on each other and all that. That was basically like a good 2 generations worth of wrestlers. Like the 80s, the 70s, 80s, well, I can make that 3. 70s, 80s, 90s, even the 2000s. Like, you would hear stories.
Yeah.
You would hear so many stories. But for me, as a fan, just hearing about what wrestlers do, seeing, like, some stuff in general, and also just following everything, knowing all the terminologies and everything, it's just part of my life, and there's nothing I could do to take away from that, because I just love wrestling so much, and I see myself being a fan for like basically the rest of my days. But yeah,
Famous, Ava.
Yeah.
You think you should be able to do a promo plugging you guys in?
Well, what do you mean?
The one thing that they taught me is also to talk.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I've learned to talk because of pro wrestling.
I see.
Mm-hmm.
Pro wrestling is giving you like the talking capability. Like you can talk before, but like
that's up to you guys if you're interested for the plugin.
Go for it.
Yeah. But anyway.
All right. Here we go.
Yeah.
Hold on.
All right, here it comes. He's a kind of nice promo.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, guys. This is Xeno. He is the awesome gaming, the funky raptor, the jalapeno of awesomeness. And if you're not following Sylverstone, ShellshockPrime on their Twitch channel, then you're nothing more but a bunch of cupcakes. So head over to their channel, follow them, subscribe to them, share it with your old family and friends, even your little cute doggies, and let them know that the awesome one sent ya. What up?
All right.
Hey,
That's
very
good.
nice.
That was
Very
really
nice.
good stuff,
promo.
dude.
Very nice.
All right. So now the last thing is Silver. Where can we find you?
Of course, you can find me in many different places in the world, but mostly on the internet. Of course, twitch.tv/Sylverstone Khandr, aka silver.stream. Just tap it in your browser, takes you there. Twitter.com/Sylverstone14. You can find me also on YouTube, Sylverstone Khandr, TikTok, Sylverstone Khandr, Instagram too, Sylverstone Khandr. Literally, if you know the name Sylverstone Khandr, you can find me like literally anywhere possible. Just check me out. All these places. You can hover. You know, there's also that too.
Everywhere. Yeah. You're everywhere, pretty much. And Cena, where can we find you?
Oh, so this is my chance to be able to hot dog and grandstand right now?
Sure, why not?
All right, so
put yourself over.
Yeah. So you definitely follow me on Twitter at XenoAwesomeGame, because unfortunately gaming is too much for Twitter.
Too long.
Yeah. You can follow me on TikTok, Hover, Instagram, and on my Twitch channel at XenoAwesomeGaming. I'll also going to be at the NYC Arena this Saturday. Bell time should be about 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. for House of Glory. They're gonna have their next event at the NYC Arena with tickets still available. So far, the matches have already been announced: Low Key versus Penta Dark, and the first ever Crown Jewel ladder match between Charlie Mason and Ken Broadway. There's also going to be several more big names that is going to be attending, rising stars as well. Six-way suicidal champion Montakia will be there. Encore, who has met, will be there. The Briscoe brothers, the House of Glory World Tag Team Champions, hopefully they'll be able to be over there. Also, the main event of Midas Black and Jay Lion will take on Milk Chocolate. I
don't know who they are, guys. First time I've seen them, so they're gonna make their debut at House of Glory.
Oh, nice.
You can also find me there at the NYC Arena. That's about it.
All right. Well, you could find me obviously here, ShellshockPrime on Twitch, and also ShellshockPrime practically everywhere. Like, because I'm everywhere these days when it comes to like social media. But I'm still gonna continue on with sharing with Shellshock. I don't know if there's gonna be an episode next week, but we'll see what happens. If anything pops up, I'll update on Twitter or Discord. But in the meantime, Silver, Xeno, thank you guys for coming through to this. So sharing with Shellshock will definitely be continuing on. Not sure when the next episode will be or what it will be about yet. But we'll still work on it. And that's just about it.
Yeah, that's all, folks.
Yep. So
always remember
Shellshock. So remember, just as always, take care of yourselves, and you'll have a great night. Good night, everybody.
Fight for everlasting peace.
Fight for everlasting peace as always.
Be awesome and stay awesome, guys.
Yep.
Don't forget, guys, that all you are half the man that I am.
And I have half the brain that you do. All right. Good night, everybody.
Bye.